speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the 7-Footers podcast. All you have to do is sign up now and use the promo code 7Footer, and Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
Seven Footers gang, thank you for rocking with us, especially every Tuesday when you catch our 5:30 live betting segment where Jarod wins you guys some money. How you doing over there, money man?
Listen, I'm trying to get these people to get some cash. We got about 3 weeks left in the season. Most teams have anywhere between 10 and 12 games left. I mean, this is it. Jenna, we're limping towards the postseason.
I love it. When I saw today's topic of or summary of our episode where you said we were limping to the end of the season, it is true for some teams. Let us tell you that really quick because we'll get to it. We're going to talk about everything from the race to the play-in to the postseason and the Lakers and LeBron James maybe not even making it. Yeah, we'll get there. But let's talk about the MVP race because you mentioned that there aren't a lot of games left, I should say. And that means there is less time for players to make their case. We already told you guys last week about Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, the two big men in the league who've apparently silently within each other agreed that they wanted a big man to win the race. But let's talk about Devin Booker and the number one Suns in the West because he might have a little chip on his shoulder as he makes his case for the last couple weeks here, because right before we recorded this on Tuesday, we caught this tweet from OG Isaiah Thomas, and he said, quote, "Let it be known, Devin Booker, the Suns, the NBA League hashtag MVP conversation, best record leading scorer has always been part of the hashtag criteria." So Devin Booker caught that, and he said, quote, "Appreciate it, IT, but the, quote, criteria changes depending on player's name." So what is that, Jarod? The crypticness of all of that. Is he saying, I'm asking this, is he saying really the MVP race is a popularity contest?
Jenna, he's certainly alluding to that, and he wouldn't be wrong. Look, OG Isaiah Thomas said it. Booker's alluding to it. The criteria does, in fact, change every single year for how and when the voters decide who is the most valuable player. Is it the best player on the best team? Is it the player that puts up the most outstanding numbers in a season? I mean, every year it seems that we change and shift the reasons behind that. Is it the quote unquote best player in the world? It just changes because humans vote on it. And, we get tired of someone always winning and it's someone else's turn and all these kinds of, there's so many different elements that go into it. And Booker being the leading scorer on the best team in the league, by the way, from start to finish of the regular season, the Phoenix Suns, someone from the Suns should be involved in the MVP conversation. Now, the reason that they are not is because the Suns are viewed more as a collective, whereas these other teams have singular superstars, right, who are just dominating and doing these amazing things. But that should not take away from what a player like Devin Booker and or Chris Paul is doing. Do I have them as MVPs? No, but, they're certainly in the conversation. And, Jenna, for me, what I love using when we talk about MVPs is Basketball Reference's win shares for 48. Because as you know, for the last 10 years, the person who's led the league in win shares per 48 has won the MVP 9 of the 10 seasons. We all know the season that didn't happen. That was the year that Russell Westbrook won the MVP, And Kevin Durant led the league in win shares for 48. But the narrative was, oh, Kevin left Russ by himself. Look at these great numbers he's putting up. Triple doubles, Oklahoma City. Well, we know that was nonsense because Russ averaged triple double 2 or 3 more seasons and didn't finish top 5 in any of those seasons. So it's just, again, the voters just vote on what stories they like and what's a better story to tell. And I think this year, the 2 great stories to tell are Joel Embiid winning his first and Nikola Jokic. Look what he's doing, dragging a team basically without a second and third best player to a top 6 spot in the West. And I will say, just for anybody out there who wants to know, among people who are in the MVP conversation, win shares per 48, these are the league leaders. Jokic is number 1 at 0.294. Giannis is second at 0.290. Joel Embiid is 5th at 0.254. The 2 players in the middle, interestingly enough, Rudy Gobert is 3rd at 0.270. Robert Williams, 4th, 0.260. Right? So your top 3 guys are within the top 5 of win shares for 48. Chris Paul is 11th at 0.212. Kevin Durant is 14th at 0.198. LeBron's 18th at 0.181. Steph Curry, 20th, 0.178, so on and so forth. But you get the point. You get what I'm saying. The Suns, coincidentally, have a few players in the top 25 of the win shares for 48, right? So that builds into the idea of the collective. But I do think Isaiah Thomas and Booker are correct in that the criteria changes every year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that one. And, you made a good point with the Suns. They are seen more as a collective. I really didn't think about that until you said it like that. And, you're right. And I feel like Booker always gets snubbed in some type of capacity for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because he's a quieter guy or he kind of has just had this surge under the Chris Paul Suns era. So very interesting. But yeah, that race to MVP is going to be interesting. And, people go with the narrative too that a big man isn't exactly the sexiest pick. And I don't mean that by looks or salaciousness. I mean that as a word that people in sports media describe as like the appealing pick, like a LeBron James or a Giannis Antetokounmpo. Have to, let y'all know what I meant there because, it gets a little wild up in these streets sometimes. But as we continue to talk about the race to the play-in, which to this day, March 22nd is 3 weeks away, I think. I was never good at math. You know that. So let's talk about the teams that are teetering that, what is it? 6.
Right. So top 6 are in the playoffs.
6, 7,
and once
6.
you're 7 through 10, that's the play-in.
Yeah. So let's get into these teams here, and Cleveland and Toronto, because we say these 2 teams in the East there because they are what? We are 2 games. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the net.
One
so
game.
One
They're
game.
1 game.
Yeah, they're 1 game separating each other. So as we get towards the end of the stretch here, a couple more games left. I mean, it's really anyone's game at that point. And once you fall into that 7 spot, Jarod, as we all know, that's when you fall into play-in tournament contention, which let's differentiate it for the casual fan. That is not the postseason.
Yeah.
That is, you are in a race and a play-in to make the postseason. So let's just separate that right there. And the Raptors and the Cavs here, I mean, like I said, it's anyone's game. Talk to me about who you think is really going to take this 6 seed down the stretch to escape that play-in tournament.
It's tough. The Raptors have been playing well. Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam is starting to play like an all-NBA guy. He really has been since about mid-January or so, and they've been excellent lately. When Cleveland has faltered a little bit after their amazing start to the year, they were top 3. They were 3rd at one point, now fall to 6. Cleveland's still ahead of schedule, so nothing to freak out about there. Jared Allen being out injured, it has hurt them. He's expected back, though, by the time the play-in / postseason begins. Look, I think Toronto might actually pull past them. 1 game separates them right now. I think Toronto has the easier schedule left. So I could see Toronto passing them. And that's interesting, Jenna, because that affects the Brooklyn Nets. Because it's unlikely the Nets catch Toronto. Just because, again, Toronto's easy schedule, and with Kyrie only being able to play home games, there's only like 2 or 3 more home games left. And only being able to play road games, there's only 2 or 3 road games left. It's limited to the impact he can have. That if the Raptors were to remain in 7, okay, and the Nets were 8, it would be a road game in Toronto. Well, unvaccinated players, Kyrie Irving, not allowed to go play in Toronto. So it would just be Kevin Durant and the healthy Nets that are available. But if it happens to be that Toronto leapfrogs and pushes up into the top 6 and Cleveland drops into 7 and Cleveland holds 7, it would be then Nets at Cleveland. Kyrie can go to that game and play on the road, and you'll have the Nets in their full complement minus Ben Simmons, and we'll get to that later. And that will give them a better chance. And remember, in the play-in, 7-8, the winner of that is automatically the 7th seed. The loser plays the winner of the 9-10 matchup for the 8th seed.
Exactly. And that would be interesting to see if Kyrie and the Nets go to Cleveland to play that series. And it's also interesting that the Raptors are surging now because we were just not too long ago talking about Cleveland and the run that they were on. So that one is going to be good. So keep your eye on the Cavs and Raptors there as we head into the last few weeks of the season here. Now, moving over to the West, let's talk about two teams, Denver and Minnesota, that are teetering that 6-7 spot. Now, they're also neck and neck here. So who do you think is going to pull this one out? Because the Timber Puppies have been showing out. And like you mentioned earlier in the episode, Nikola Jokic, they're riding on fumes with this team at this point, unless we have two players that could return in Jamal Murray and MPJ, because rumor has it around these NBA streets that they could be returning for the postseason. Maybe MPJ reportedly ahead of Jamal Murray on that recovery schedule for their separate injuries.
Yeah. First of all, Jenna, let's give credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. Like the Timber Puppies, man, 8-2 in their last 10. They have just been playing some seriously good basketball. Karl-Anthony Towns is playing like an all NBA caliber player. And dare I say, he will be the third team center on all NBA this year, dislodging Rudy Gobert, I think. And it's just incredible what they're doing. Of course, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, everybody on that team kind of fits. And Patrick Beverley's infused them with like a toughness and a certain style of play, and they don't back down. And, look, we talked about Denver. They are on fumes. Jokic has been excellent all season. He is it's funny. I said this to the guys in the text chat the other day. It depends on what day of the week it is. So on Sunday, I was like, no, it's definitely Embiid. Monday, I was like, nah, it's Jokic. It's who the MVP is. It literally, my mind changes every day. That's how good both these men are. So one of those two, or Jokic, might be finished worst or second in the MVP discussion. But it's fascinating. And if that happens where the Nuggets fall and they get to 7, now it's Nuggets Clippers, right? And everybody assumes, all right, Nuggets have home court. Let's say they win. By the way, Nuggets and Clippers play tonight. Watch our betting segment. Get a little preview of that game. That would be 7 seed would be Nuggets versus the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs, which is very interesting, right? If you're Memphis, do you want a Nuggets team that could potentially bring back MPJ and Jamal Murray or a Timberwolves team with Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a matchup nightmare and a problem, right? So, I love my Grizzly Cubs, but, that'll be either one. That's a tough first round opponent. Now, Grizzlies will have home court advantage, so good on them, but it'll be tough. I could see either of those series going 6 or 7 games. That's some fascinating stuff we're seeing there in the play-in playoff, like that 6-7. Everybody's about, it's either one game in the East or half a game in the West. That's exciting down the stretch. And look, the play-in has served its purpose. It's exciting. People are like, oh my God, these last few games matter, and getting into the playoffs, and we'll see. Anything can happen once you're in.
100%. And it's also interesting too. You have Denver on the cusp of that play-in spot. So again, I know MVP is a regular season award, but you don't expect your MVP to be eliminated that early. And I say that because Jokic is in the conversation, of course. So it'll be interesting in so many different ways going down the stretch. I can't wait to see how it plays out. But until then, we have to talk about the ailing Lakers because they're in the 10th seed, guys. You want to know where the 10th seed is? That is under the Pelicans. You want to know why the Pelicans are there? I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make sense.
Jenna,
damn it.
Yo, your Lakers might look. I mean, it's whatever. I'm just like, are they going to fall out of the play-in? They could. I doubt it. San Antonio is just, they're 3 games back. Lakers are just moved back into 9th. They're 1 game up on the Pelicans. The Pelicans lost last night. They won. But it's, man, the Lakers are the preseason betting favorites.
Literally preseason betting favorites. And not to mention, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that the Lakers don't make the play-in or they get eliminated before the postseason. When was the last time a team that had the leading scorer in the entire league not make the postseason?
You see what you're doing? You holding on to this. You're like a real LeBron man. Well, all you got to hold on to is scoring titles because you know he ain't winning no NBA titles this season. So you're like, scoring champ. LeBron's going to be scoring champ.
Yeah, okay, I deserve that. He deserves that. We all deserve that. That's fine. You know what? Let's just shift to a happier note and talk about how LeBron James returned to Cleveland on Monday and the Lakers beat the Cavs 131-120. But that doesn't matter. The win doesn't matter. They're in the 10th seed, whatever. What mattered was the fact that he had a terribly disastrous poster on his former teammate, Kevin Love, right before the second half there. I mean, he just completely wrecked Love, and Love was ready for the charge. He fell to the floor, rolled out of bounds. It was all fun and games because he put LBJ in a headlock after that. They did their handshake from the 2016 championship days when they beat the Warriors 4-3 in that series. Oh my God. But let's stay in the present because I'll start to cry. That was a nice little moment there, though. And then they took it to social media. And, LeBron was like, he choked the shit out of me. Kevin Love was like, I'm not talking to you for 2 days. And it was all fun and games. And then, of course, Richard Jefferson jumps in and says, what did I miss? So it was all good. It was on your highlight reels, everybody. Go check it out. LBJ is still running it out here.
This is how sad it has gotten, folks, for LeBron fans. That this is what they have to hold on to is LeBron and Kevin Love joking about when they were winning together in 2016 and how he almost posterized him and LeBron going for scoring titles. My, how the mighty have fallen. My. Look, let's just end this Lakers situation real quick and just say lovely for LeBron that he and K Love had that lovely moment. Hilarious jokes, memes. Let's put it up everywhere. Lakers, let's keep it a buck. They ain't doing nothing. Okay. All right. Like, they win. Let's say they win the game against the Pelicans. Okay, 9-10, right? Cool. Then they get to play the Clippers. Let's say they beat the Clippers. Okay, cool. 8 seed. Your gift, Los Angeles Lakers, is the Phoenix Suns in round 1, which, Anthony Davis, you said last season, oh, they know they got lucky. I was hurt. Okay, my guy. We'll see. We'll see how it looks this season. By the way, you're hurt again this year, and it doesn't matter because the Suns have been the best team all season, beginning to end.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah, it's not. So let's just move over to the East. Who wants to talk about that anymore? Let's discuss the Nets because right now, Kevin Durant and the Nets, they are in the 8th seed in the East. And their Kyrie Irving situation is still playing out, and it's still stagnant, meaning Kyrie Irving cannot play at Barclays Center. And that is a serious problem when you're talking about facing teams like Toronto and, the Knicks.
Milwaukee,
not like that would ever matter.
Philly.
But for real, the mayor comes out and says in the most recent statement this week that New York teams must wait for the loosened COVID-19 restrictions, meaning just like anybody else in the rest of New York City, waiting for those restrictions to lift at their workplaces, so do these athletes. So what does this exactly mean for the Nets right now at this point in the season with 3 weeks to go until the postseason? And they're in that play-in tournament jeopardy pool.
The Nets, I will say right now, are playing pretty good basketball. They have won 6 of their last 10 games. They've won 5 of their last 6. Their Kevin Durant is looking like, oh, I was never out all season. Had a big win last night against the Utah Jazz. He was masterful in that game. Look, if you have Kevin Durant and just some dudes, you got a chance, right? There's still a chance you're going to win because that's how good that dude is. Of course, they would love to have Kyrie back, and they will have him on the road, except in Toronto. But look, if the mandate gets eased in the private sector sometime in April, well, that's in time for the playoffs, right? So if the Nets are able to, win their one play-in round, because it looks like they're likely to stay there unless Cleveland or Toronto start really falling back to the pack and the Nets keep winning and they somehow fight their way into that 6th seed. It's possible, sure, but they're running out of time, right? There's only a handful of games, 10, 11 games left. So there's not a whole lot of time to make up that ground. And, the Nets know that. And I think their position is, look, we are where we are. This season has been what it is. We're going to just roll our dice with who we got. And we believe we'll be able to play with whomever once we got number 7.
Absolutely. And staying on the topic of the Nets, they, of course, are waiting for the debut of their newest superstar in Ben Simmons. But before that win over the Jazz that you mentioned, Coach Steve Nash said that Simmons has a herniated disc or herniated discs in his back from a couple years ago that they are rehabbing and working through. And there was some sort of flare up. So he got an epidural shot and they're still hoping for him to make his debut. But again, let me preface this that he has 11 regular season games to make that debut. And in the postseason, which, hey, it's anybody's game at this point. But, it's the Nets and it's Kevin Durant. So, let's not worry as much. But again, with that Kyrie Irving situation, with the vaccine mandate, I mean, you just don't know. But what about Ben Simmons here? I mean, it's not looking great.
I doubt he plays in the regular season. I mean, with 11 games left, there's probably not a chance for that. He does with the epidural. The hope there is that he can alleviate the pain, and this is something that Simmons has been dealing with for the past couple of years. He did miss some time, a decent amount of time, a couple of years ago with the same back issue. Backs are tricky, as we know. If you're the Nets, this is the future of your franchise, along with Kevin Durant. Like, no need to rush. The odds of you winning a championship are not likely anyway this season. So what's the point of rushing him back this postseason to potentially get hurt again? If he somehow, because the point, Jenna, is he has to feel well enough to then graduate from individual work to get on the court and start playing contact 5-on-5. None of that's happened yet, right? So the likelihood of him making, as I said, regular season, out of the question. And then to bring him back in the pressure cooker of a play-in or playoffs, I think that's also highly unlikely. So Nash remains optimistic because that's who he is. But I doubt we see Ben Simmons this season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more there. And, like you said, why rush him back at this point? So we shall see what happens in Brooklyn, but they're, looking to make that playoff push, of course. So we will see. And, Jarod will keep us updated on all things Brooklyn as he always does. But let's talk about Steph Curry, because just when the Warriors got the band back together, Steph suffered a foot injury and he was in a walking boot. So what is the deal with Steph? How much can this hurt the Warriors in the West in that race, especially with the Suns, who Chris Paul is starting to warm up a little bit? Just saying.
So the Warriors will likely not have a chance to get the 2 seed. Memphis is likely going to hold on to that. So the Warriors now look like they're in the 3rd spot. But if they slip, Utah is only, last time I checked, they're only a game and a half back of the Warriors. So, or 2.5, excuse me. So anything could happen there. So I would watch that. Look, no Steph Curry, Jenna, and you're not winning a title. That's just facts. Like this team will not win a championship without Steph Curry. So they need to get him back, and then no matter where they're seated, they feel confident they can play well. But again, it depends on where they are. So let's say they get that 3rd seed. Let's say Denver manages to hold on to 6, and they get Porter Jr. back and Murray back. Well, now you got a different looking Denver team as a 3-6 matchup. A little bit harder for you now, right? If it's the Timberwolves, they probably feel less confident, less concerned. But Karl-Anthony Towns, matchup nightmare, right? That's a problem. And Pat Bev will get in Steph's kitchen and really, he'll bug them and play good defense and irritate and do all that. The last thing you'd want coming off an injury, have to play 7 game series against that dude, right? That doesn't sound fun. So, if you're a Warriors fan, you were feeling pretty good, I would say, around January, February, like, all right, we're looking good. When the band gets back together now, a little trepidatious.
Hell yeah. Let's talk about it. But we got to move on to the Sixers now, because little guy down there named Tyrese Maxey went off in a win against the Heat last night without James Harden and MVP candidate Joel Embiid, which says a lot when you're going up against the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, who appeared to have an issue last night somewhere within everything.
Hero didn't have a great game. Yeah, it was a tough game. Look,
yeah,
it
wasn't going well for them.
I don't want to take too much out of this game, but I will say Tyrese Maxey is going to be an important player for the Sixers come this postseason. He is, in effect, Jenna, their third best player. Because remember, when the Harden trade was going down for Simmons, one of the sticking points for Daryl Morey was, we are not including Tyrese Maxey in this deal, which to me says he then is your third most important player behind Embiid and Harden. So Maxey's going to have to play well this postseason if Philly thinks they're going to compete and get to a conference finals. Okay. Now, he's had bright spots and good play all season long, but let's remember, he's only in year 2. Okay. So, and now thrust into where it's not just, whatever we get from you is positive. It's like, no, we're actually counting on you in the postseason to deliver, right? That's a different kind of pressure. So we will see how Maxey does with that, but he's been a bright spot for them all along. I think Philly's got a good one there in him.
Absolutely. With Tyrese Maxey, and this isn't anything against him, but with Tyrese Maxey as your third best player, do you really think they have a shot at a conference?
I mean, that's tough.
Conference finals?
That's tough, right? Because that's the question you're asking, right? It's like, so basically what you're asking
is,
a
sophomore.
Can Tyrese Maxey be the third best player on a championship team, right? That is what you're asking. And right now, it may seem a little early for that to be the case, right? Given what we think of the top teams in the league and who their third best players are, right? If you look at the defending champions, well, their third best player is Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a lot better than Tyrese Maxey, right?
Like, when you're looking at it like that.
These are the questions you're asking yourself. It's like, okay, when you look at who's number 3, it's like, that's, but could Maxey develop into that? He could. But again, all this postseason, everything now is going to be good reference points for him going forward.
100%. Let's move on and talk about a quick incident that occurred this week when the Trailblazers played the Pacers. Now, this whole viral video with Nurkic showing him approaching a fan slowly, but grabbing the phone out of his hand. They exchange words. You can't really hear on the videos online that like what they're saying, but then Yahoo Sports comes out with a report that this fan allegedly said lewd comments to Nurkic about his mother and his grandmother specifically. And as some of you may know, his grandmother passed away from COVID. So, just sensitive topic all around, even when you are talking about, like, you just don't do that. So then it comes out that the league has fined Nurkic $40,000 for this incident. So, people, of course, have their 2 cents to put in. They're angry on social media, this and that, due to the sensitivity of the comments. But yeah, the whole situation also goes back to fan behavior. I mean, it's not too long ago that, we're hearing about different things. Players are getting hit with things. The language, we just talked about the Westbrook chants. Like, at what point is it too much, and what do you do at this point?
I mean, Jenna, my feelings on this. Like, if these are things that you would not say to a person randomly on the street for fear that you would get punched in your face, don't say them in that setting, right? The only reason why these fans do it is because they know the athletes cannot do anything to them, right? Because they will be penalized. And, it's just like, bro, you're courtside at an NBA game. What are you doing? Why is that your mindset? Why are you mad, bro? Right? Like, why are you not enjoying the fact that you're watching some of the best athletes in the world play ball and you have the best seat in the house? Instead, you're out here like talking junk and trying to involve yourself. It's just, listen, you know how I feel about fans, generally speaking. So I'll just leave it there.
Big facts. Couldn't agree more. And let's move on and talk about our top 5. Who are our top 5 teams that we think are the best playing teams in the league right now? East and West, give me your top 5.
Jenna, I'm going to go Milwaukee Bucks at 5. At number 4, I'm going to go, wait for it, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I like it. I like it a lot.
At number 3, my Memphis Grizzly Cubs. At number 2, the red hot Boston Celtics. And at number 1, and they've been number 1 all season long, Jenna. No Chris Paul, no DeAndre Ayton, no Devin Booker, no problem. Phoenix Suns.
Love to hear it. That's a good top 5, Jarod. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
All right. My top 5. We are going to go number 5. I am going with the Timberwolves. They've been playing amazing. You guys know what it is. My number 4 team is the Celtics. They are not higher up on that list because, they've been coasting. We know what they're doing already. But there's other teams that are impressing me more this week. So that was my number 4. My number 3 is the Grizzlies. And my number 2 is the 76ers. And my number 1, the red hot Phoenix Suns, for all the reasons that you have also said.
Yeah, they're just, I would love Phoenix to have another shot at a championship this year. I'd love to see them go back, and whomever they play, I'd love to see that matchup again. But yeah, Phoenix has just been the best team all season long, and kudos to them.
I know that's right. All right, Jarod. Guys, thank you for sticking with us. You know what's up. Ride this out the whole season with us every single Wednesday. You know what it is.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that jazz. And, of course, at 7footers Pod on Twitter, at 7footers Podcast on Instagram, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And until next time, peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't want to try.